video was filmed on a sweltering hot weekend in July, when I used a hobby project as a very flimsy pretext to go and fuck about with some horses for the day in the New Forest. Welcome to Battle Camper. Is there an aspect of painting your army that you just hate? If you play Middle-earth battle strategy game, the answer to that question might well be horses. People hate them. I'm not much different. So how do I inspire myself to paint horses? Well, why don't I go and find horses? I mean, a myriad of reasons. To start with, I live in London, so the options for going out to see horses and paint with horses are minimal. But that is what the van is for. So, I am going to the New Forest. One of the interesting things in the New Forest is they have wild horses. Well, they actually have wild ponies. Wild ponies doesn't sound battle enough. It doesn't sound very Rohan. So I'm going to refer to them as horses or mega ponies for the rest of the video. One of the two. I haven't settled on the exact terminology. So I've not booked a campsite. I'm sleeping in some car parks. Cheap and cheerful. It'll be great. The New Forest is an area of common land, basically meaning that the locals all share their rights to the land in common. There's a whole load of history and tradition that goes along with it. But perhaps the creepiest is the fact that there are 10 volunteers who form a council to protect and administer the land, and their official title is Verderers. They are the Council of Verderers, which is just 2 straight lines away from murderers, if you're a bit sloppy about the details. So I'm basically on my way to camp out, theoretically illegally, in a dark wilderness overseen by a council of 10 verderers. What could possibly go wrong? On the upside, I did see horses almost immediately, only about 100 feet from the car park I planned to stay in. I have arrived in a car park in the New Forest. I swallowed a fly. No overnight. Parking, leave by dusk. I think that we have reasonable defence because we can't have left by dusk because we didn't arrive by dusk. I will leave by dusk. I'll leave by the next dusk at which I'm here. This is going to be a good weekend. That's a good shout. The next morning I woke at about 5 AM, which would normally annoy me, but for some reason this morning I was willing to let it slide. It was basically like someone had injected a syringe full of tranquility directly into my eyeballs, and I was loving it. The plan for the day was simple. I was to paint 3 horses, well, just 3 horse skins. I would hike through the forest, and I would paint the 3 horses as the first 3 horses I came across. If I came across a group, I was at liberty to choose a horse to paint from that group, rather than just sitting there and painting the whole lot. After breakfast, I was ready and raring to go. After a short stint on the Switch, that is. I brought myself a box of paints. It's just some paints that I thought might be handy. I kind of packed in a bit of a panic, and so there is no science behind the paints that I brought with me. A couple of browns, a couple of greys, and as long as I've got white and black, which I do, I should be okay. Paintbrushes. I've then got a host of other crap to lug around, such as filming equipment, water, mainly for the water pot, more than for hydration. I'll bring like Fanta for hydration, because I'm a professional hiker. I take this seriously, yeah? I started this trip not sure whether I'd see any horses at all, but it did not take long for me to strike gold. I see something. I think this might be it. I was literally just about to say, I'm not going to pretend not to be a bit disappointed that they're all behind a fence, but look at what is coming up the track behind me. There is a fence, but they're on both sides of it. They figured this out. These guys have obviously been on a jailbreak-esque adventure, and they've used their newfound freedom to wander about 3 feet from the fence
and do exactly what they would otherwise have been doing had they have been stuck inside. It's a dream tale.
So I got myself set up, ready to paint. As this white horse was clearly bringing up the front, it had the honour of being the first to be immortalised amongst my Riders of Rohan.
There is every chance that this is the most wholesome thing that has ever happened to me. Hey, pal.
I tell you what, I can tell, in terms of motivation, this is going to work. I have never been so motivated to paint a horse in all my life. By the way, they've all basically fucked off now. So you're not losing anything by me filming some of the painting. All I'm trying to do is get a strong base coat with Gracie, and then I'm going to do a little bit of mixing to get the low light greys and highlight pretty much up to white. But you'll see at the back end of the horse, it's got sort of greyish spots on its butt, and then it's even got down its legs, it's basically got like black socks on. So I'm going to have to get a transition down to darker greys for the legs. I genuinely think this might be one of my favourite moments so far. There is no qualifier to that. There's no this year, no this week. Just so far. With the base coat on, I am just going to wash it with contrast white. This stuff will probably darken it down more than I want the finished product to be in most places, but it will sit as a nice reference point, and it might even hit the right note in the middle, so that not the white bits, not the grey bits, but the sort of middly bits. Literally just globbing it on there.
Just focus on globbing that mud. Glob!
I know I usually put memes in these videos, but it genuinely seems out of place here. I mean, obviously I did it anyway, but I thought about not doing it. After the wash, I just painted back up to Gracie. I'm sorry that there are out of focus moments throughout this video. It was very difficult to get the focus right outside, and it's something I'll work on for the future. Not sure how well all this is going to come out in the sunlight, but there you go. I'm sure you get the gist. As you'd expect, I used the Gracie to fill in all the raised areas to begin the process of highlighting up to the brighter whites. I didn't bother with the back legs, which are going to be darker grey. Right, it's time to start mixing up some highlight paints. If anyone can tell me how to stop it wrinkling, whack it in the comments. Gracie, and a wee bit of white scar. And just start working up some highlights. So on the sharper areas, like, you know, knees, basically all the muscles on the legs, we're literally just highlighting in quite a standard way. Pretty broad, so that we can get some of pure white in later. On these flatter areas, we're choosing where the light would go, and it's like up here, and starting the graduated highlight up towards it. It's now going to be almost pure white with a much finer brush. Oh my god, my legs. So now I want to start getting down to those grey spots. They started, if I remember correctly, quite gradually and not too a dissimilar colour to the rest of the fur. So I've got Mechanica Standard Grey on my brush here. I'm mixing that into the base mix there, which of course includes the Gracie.
There we go, I've got a nice little blend going on there. And we're just going to start creating a pattern here at random. There's a fly on my paintbrush.
I also used this mix to paint up the legs where its quote socks unquote were.
We want a few darker spots too, just to really break it up. Then we're going to wash down those legs, highlight the legs, and then the skin is done.
I created the darker spots with Pure Mechanica Standard Grey.
Just like that. So I'm washing those legs with non-oil. I don't want a stark line between where the non-oil starts and ends. So I'll be mixing it down. Now I did bring some medium with me for mixing down and then left it in the van. So I'm gonna have to use water. I'm gonna smudge it with my finger just to make sure we get that soft line.
After this was dry, I highlighted back up with the base grey.
Cool, that'll do me for now. I'm going to do the tail and the mane at the next place because I can let the wash dry whilst I'm painting the next horse. So I'm basically back on the trail. Time to pack away.
I felt that if I'd come across these horses this quickly, it wouldn't be long before I'd come across another group. I expected to be inundated with horses, which just didn't turn out to be the case at all.
And I've not found any further horses, nor evidence of horses. So I've come to a crossroads that I believe takes me back to the van. I'm going to follow it back to the van because I have secret satellite intelligence that horses sometimes hang out near a different car park that's not too far away. So we're going to pick up the van, head over there.
I'm going to head over to where the horses are. At least the intelligence suggests they are. At least the intelligence suggests that they were when Google took the picture, which could have been anywhere between yesterday and half a decade ago. So, let's crack on. My drive took me through a really lovely little village called Burley, with lots of local cider and whimsical little shops. In Burley, I should have turned right at the crossroads, but without any signal with which to actually use Google Maps to navigate, I turned left, and I drove and I drove and I drove, until eventually I left the New Forest in its entirety and had to turn around. I then spotted a group of horses heading back in, and so pulled another U-E in order to find any parking space with complete disregard for local parking etiquette.
I've no idea what the parking convention actually is here, but it appears to be the equivalent of if I fits, I sits. So we're just going to leave it here. There are horses just over the road. Now, it is a belter of a day, and I don't have a cap, I don't have any sunscreen, and there's no trees over where I'm going next, so I need to be quite careful. But that aside, let's get packed up. Given it's such a lovely day, it's of course incredibly fortunate that I remembered to bring all of my high salt snacks with me. That's what you need when you're low on fluids, high on sunshine, going for a trek. Today's working out just so wholesome. I don't think I felt this wholesome doing a wargaming project since basically the very first one. I was 10 years old, my friend showed me his Imperial Guard, and I just thought, yes, I am getting this. And somehow, I don't know how, I don't know with what money I bought it, but I did manage to buy the starter set, which was the 3rd edition box set, Black Templars v Dark Eldar. And I remember getting home, sitting at the kitchen table, and I just couldn't figure out how to get the guns to attach to the hands, because of course 3rd edition Space Marines, the bolters had the grips on them, and you had to cut the grips off in order to fit them and glue them onto the hand. But that first experience was great. I think my parents were worried that I just didn't really do anything. My brother skated and went out. He was normal, you know. And they were like, oh mate, look, this kid needs a hobby. Let's get him some of the little toy soldiers, he'll paint the toy soldiers, and then maybe he'll grow up to be an artist or a designer. But no, he grew up to paint little toy soldiers.
That is target sighted. The horses were a long trek through this scrubland, in which I now understand you're not supposed to walk,
for fear of disturbing local species of rare bird. So if you visit the New Forest, please don't do what I'm doing here. But don't worry if you want justice, the horses meted it out. They recognised a moron coming when they saw one, and they are out of here. Bloody hell. Little bastards. Just got set up. Ah, for fuck's... Right, I've packed up and we are moving because I don't know whether you can see this from here, but there is an absolute buttload of horses down by the river just over, or the lake, just over the road. That one that just ran away, that ingrate, you know, fuck that guy. We don't need to paint that one. That one won't be immortalised in my Rohan army. I'll find another one. Oh my God, look at this. This is like, well, I'll let the meme do the talking.
Dr. Grant, my dear Dr. Sattler, welcome
to the New Forest.
They do move in herds.
So, we've arrived. Now, obviously none of these are actually horses, we've established that. But even some of these horses that aren't actually horses that aren't horses at all. They're cows. Quite a few of them are cows. So we've got a mix of cows and horses hanging out, having a good time, probably. Right, that's the horse we're doing. Let's get this done. I need to get myself a thumbnail while I'm here. I don't know what's happening. When I farted, a horse ran away. You guys do it and it's just like all totally cool. Next we're going to grab the black of the tail. We're going to use Mechanica Standard. Let's get that contrast black on the mane and on the tail. And these will take a little while to dry. But that's okay, because the phone needs time to charge. Remember how I said that contrast black would take a while to dry? Well, it's like a minute later and it's completely dry. It probably has something to do with the blazing heat out here. I can feel my neck burning away. Also, do I not have any Agrax Earthshade with me? What a complete disaster. Unfortunately, we're going to have to call this a slightly aborted attempt. As much as I love it out here, it's gorgeous and I would love to just plow on, I really would. It's not a good idea actually to get burnt. I must admit, I was fleetingly tempted to allow myself to burn to a crisp just for the content, because content is king. But at the same time, I'm not sure the extra like 2 views I'd get would necessarily be proportionate to the health risk. But I also don't have my normal oil, I don't have my Agrax Earthshade. That's completely stupid of me. I would just mix down the Black Templar, but I've also left my contrast medium in the van. So actually I do need to go back. And it is amusing that it's that and not the sun-based health risk that actually got me to get up and move. Oh. Words cannot describe the suffocating levels of heat in here. I need a pub and an icy drink. But first, if you are enjoying this video, YouTube has just asked me to remind you, sorry. Yeah. To smash the like button and to hit subscribe. Smash the like button, hit subscribe. If that means anything to you, please do comply. Gets them off my back for another week. Thanks. I really was starting to feel the effects of the heat, so I drove back through Burley and into the east of the forest, trying to find a cooler, shaded area where I could finish my painting. Most of the car parks were now full to the brim, and so between my increasingly concerning dehydration and fleeting hopes of finding anywhere to park up, I was starting to give up hope. But then, on the edge of the forest, I found a car park with some spaces. So, we have struck gold here because I am tired and hungry and burnt, but there are horses in this car park. That man is trying really hard to get those horses away from his van. I see him very gingerly trying to push its face away, but they are going nowhere. Meanwhile, I'm horseless by my van, and I want nothing more than them being over here. There's a real mismatch going on. I understand that horses love peanut butter. I don't know where I picked that up from. The window is open. The smell will waft over that way. They won't be able to resist. They did resist. There was something about the top of this man's head that they coveted, and they weren't giving it up easily. So I've got my contrast medium, and I've got Rhinox hide. Let's make a wash, and let's do it in here because I didn't bring anything more appropriate. Medium first because it's too easy to contaminate, and Rhinox hide. This was my first time using Games Workshop's contrast medium, and, as you'd expect from its purpose, it went on thicker than other mediums. But it still did the job just fine, settling nicely in all the recesses and creating a decent, consistent wash. However, I did consistently underestimate how much I'd actually need, hence why I go back 2 or 3 times to make up new batches. I then stepped out to stretch my legs and, well, mostly to try and will the horses over to my side of the car park. It's happening, guys. It's finally happening. Put my time and I'm reaping the rewards. Just in time for the wash to dry as well. This new guy had arrived, and for some reason he'd come to this horse-filled car park in this famously horse-filled forest in order to do some sunbathing, and became very upset when there were horses nearby, so he leads this one away towards my van with half a banana. But you know what they say, one man's irrational horse hatred is another man's gain. Hey. Hey man. Let's turn that light off. Hello? Hello? Are you coming in the van? I hope this doesn't freak you out. No? Hello. I found this little model horse is based on you, mate. Those are my paints. This is what I wanted all along. Oh, that's... I needed that, but don't worry too much about it. If you could just grab it before you leave. Please don't shoot the table. Oh, Christ. We should get a picture together. What are you eating? Oh, did you just bring that back up in my van? Hi. Boo will be jealous. If I turn the sun, it's going to bother you. Right, after that excitement, we're just doing the boring shit. And painting back up to Doombull Brown.
If that wasn't horse-based motivation, I don't know what is. It genuinely made me want to finish the project. It genuinely made me want to keep on painting. Now I guess I just need a public forest full of mountain goats and I might be able to get my Iron Hills army started. As I waited for the layers to dry on the Oaky horse, I started painting up the third one with Baneblade Brown. This was to be the horse that just entered the van.
Okay, that's gone on very nicely. So we'll make a wash for that in a bit. But first we're going to start highlighting the Oaky horse.
For the highlights I kept it simple, just gradually adding white to the Doombull Brown to create my mix. That's the nice thing about painting horses. Not only do they not have to look the same, you don't want them to look the same. So you can mess around mixing up some paints without having to record how you made them to replicate the colour in the future. After highlights I had to make a new wash.
We'll go with Dryad. It's a dry, natural brown. I think it's going to sit very nicely on this.
This mix came out a bit muddier, with less separation between the recesses and the higher areas. Perhaps I added too much paint to the mixture, or perhaps it's just not a great colour combination for it.
Whilst that wash dries, I have decided to go a little bit further on the Oaky one. So we're going to put a bit more white in that mix. We're going to go for some very, very narrow highlights along the front here.
I was actually really starting to feel the impact of the heat now, and I figured that sooner rather than later I would need to head back. But I was quite determined that I would finish my 3 horse skins before I did. For the third horse, I again just used the base paint Baneblade Brown and gradually added white to get it up to the highlights. It was harder to get the definition on this one. The browns just weren't as easy to get right, but then not every horse has to look as glossy.
That's the flesh on our third horse done. As always, I'll take better shots when I'm home. I am just about home. One thing I tried to film, but unfortunately wasn't able to, is, well, a guy called Tim, who follows the YouTube channel for whatever bizarre reason, he had an idea in which whenever I travel somewhere to paint miniatures, I should base some of the miniatures at least with materials that I collect from that area. Now, I'd love to make some kind of sarky underhand remark about that, but that's just a big brain idea. That's great. So I have collected some materials, some little stones, some gravel, and a twig or two, and I'll be using them on the horses' bases. That is a wholesome cherry on top of this whole wholesome cake.
So that's that then. I got home and finished painting up in a matter of some months, and I finished the bases and they're all ready to go. I've got the white speckled one from the beginning of the trip, I've got the sort of chestnutty one that came into the van, and I've got the black-haired one that I found near the lake. I'm actually really pleased with how these came out. Horses are more fun and less fiddly than I'd remembered and anticipated, and it's nice to see that these guys are popping a lot more than the models that I painted just 1 year ago were. You can see here I've got a direct comparison between robes and shields, and I'm hoping you'll agree that I managed to spice up the paint job by a good 10 or 15%. Anyway, enough of that. If you've made it this far into the video, it's because you want free stuff. So you're probably here for the competition teased earlier. Now, last time I gave away a set of the Fangorn dice from Games Workshop, a collector's set of limited run dice that objectively have got good value that is likely to increase with time. Well, this time I'm giving away a slightly different set of dice. They are plain white dice that I've defaced by adding my logo to them. And in order to win this set of dice and a crisp new dice bag, all you have to do is this. Pick one of the 3 horses that I painted for this video and decide which one, including mount, is going to get the most kills at the Lord of the Imps Middle-earth Strategy Battle Game Tournament in Lincoln in October. I'll be taking Rohan. These 3 horses and their riders will be in the list. I will count kills for them,
And when I put up that video, I'll declare a winning horse. Out of everyone who guessed that horse, I will pick one at random, and that one gets the dice and bag. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'm hoping that the algorithm brings us back together again soon.